Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
HAWKS POSTCAST, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's quick hitting, local insight after every game. You can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra. Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. The HAWKS POSTCAST is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team underway. Hawks Cup play on a Halloween got off to a nice treat of a start in Indy. We'll talk about how the ATL collective turned the game tonight. But first, let's talk takes on another road win with a 128-108 final over the Indiana Pacers tonight. And Tate, you said high percentage scoring sealed the deal.
That it did, Tenitra. And first of all, happy Halloween to you. My favorite time of the year.
Really?
Anybody? Yes, it is. My absolute favorite. Scary movie, AMC, Movie Fest, Marathon, the whole nine. Absolute favorite. Yeah, matter of fact, I'm going to turn this light on because I actually thought that, I don't know, I was getting into my Halloween mode. Nonetheless,
it's looking spooky over there.
I know. Okay. I'm trying to get it together. I don't know. The lighting is a little bit weird. I'll figure it out here in a second. What actually looked spooky to me was the defensive side of the ball for the Indiana Pacers on tonight. And I know that they've lost, 5 out of the last, 5 out of the 7 players that were leading scorer for the team from last year. But I will say that this is yet still an Atlanta Hawks team that took care of business from a standpoint of the putting up the highest percentage, scoring attempts on tonight. I thought that part was probably one of the more impressive things that they really could have done. Dumping the ball into the post, into the painted area. I call it hungry hippo, as I'm sure that you're familiar with. Just making sure that the guys are eating early, making sure the guys are eating often, and not getting into a foot race with the Indiana Pacers. We know that they lead the league in fast break points, in which they were even outscored by the Atlanta Hawks tonight, big time, 28-8 as far as on the fast break. So that was good to see Indiana get beat at their own game. But even in the paint, 74-38, complete obliteration, just sure domination. I'm not sure that I've seen the Atlanta Hawks so far in 6 games dominate anywhere on a stat sheet the way that I did see them dominate on tonight. You want the easiest shot possible. You do so by getting the closest you can to the rim. They did that tonight. The shots were going in. I think that's why we've seen them win.
Yeah, I think that a couple of things, like you said, just dominating points in the paint, just almost doubled what the productivity of the Pacers were. And granted, as you mentioned, no Tyrese Haliburton. We know he's done for the season. I'll talk about that in a minute. No Miles Turner off to the Milwaukee Bucks. But again, all the Hawks can play is the team on the court, no different than all the Pacers can play is the team that the Hawks put on the court. So that's just kind of how it goes. But ultimately, I think that a number that we talked about for the Hawks to maybe close in on, I think they did another fine job of that. Offensive rebounds, only allowing 18 from the Pacers, but more importantly, only allowing 22 second chance points off of those offensive rebounds. And defensively, we know that we haven't seen their best game just yet, but at least a little bit more closing out and even causing not just 12 turnovers, but able to score 19 points off those turnovers. And that's what I call kind of like that, those bonus points, if you will, similar to what you can get at the free throw line, which they needed because they didn't get any favors. Like the referees did not do them any favors, especially in that first quarter where literally they were called for foul 23-8. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, what's really going on here? But sometimes on the road, you can't quite get what it is that you want or need from the referees. But again, a maturing Hawks team, a Hawks team that understands just keep your head and keep moving is what we saw tonight. And that's why my take was survival of the fittest, which favored the Hawks, because again, the Hawks can't help who was on the floor for the Pacers.
That's right.
Any more than they could help who was on the floor for themselves, because of course we know that just due to some technical difficulties with Trae Young getting out of New York, unfortunately, he wasn't able to get that MRI when he wanted to. So that MRI just took place, I believe, earlier this morning. The Hawks are getting a second and third opinion. So we're still waiting to see what the final diagnosis is going to be and what they're going to let us know about how long he's going to be out. But that said, the Hawks who took the court said, hey, we're understanding what the assignment is, including the guy who once again showed up. Nickeil Alexander Walker showed up when Trae went down in that first quarter and has been showing up ever since, finishes with 21 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a couple steals. And really, when you go down the totality, all of the starters in double figures. Onyeka Okongwu, Keaton Wallace in double figures off the bench. So I think the important thing here is that whether you have Nickeil Alexander Walker running point or whether you decide to have Dyson Daniels running point, we know he can run it as well. There are opportunities and there is depth there for Quinn Snyder to at least be confident in that they can run the offense if needed in the absence of Trae Young.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned was about how all of, everybody who basically pretty much touched the ball, I think, ended up, getting into the scoring column. At least I know that,
yes,
like
everyone.
you said, every single person. So that just goes to show the balance that Atlanta has on the roster and the depth, like you said. But even, more so where you was talking about Nickeil Alexander Walker. And I did want to ask you a question about this because I know we've talked about Dyson Daniels being put in that, position from being maybe not the point guard, but the primary ball handler sometimes, especially last year when Trae had went down. And even Luke Kennard, I think, is situational sometimes where he can maybe be one of the guys to get out there and handle the ball as well. But Nickeil Alexander Walker, of these guys, do you feel like he is whether I don't care about short-term, long-term, do you feel like he is the solution, the first point of contact, the most ideal guy when it comes to backup point guard off the bench? Because I really like what he's doing. It's like they're not even skipping a beat.
Yeah, I do too. I think that there's just a poise there. There's just a maturity there. And I think that he can also give you what you need just in terms of whether, and tonight only 1 of 5 from 3, but he can still give you that if you need to. If you send him to the free throw line, he's going to get points for you. He's going to distribute the ball and make sure that he helps to push the pace. And like you said, I think if called in an emergency, sure, Luke Kennard can do it. Obviously, Dyson Daniels can as well. But I prefer, if I had to choose which part of Dyson Daniels' game I'm most feeling like the Hawks are in need of, I prefer it on defense because obviously Quinn Snyder felt the same, putting him on Pascal Siakam early. So, yeah, I think that Nickeil Alexander Walker is indeed the best option there until they are able to get Trae Young back in action.
And I'm going to say this real quick before we move along. I think it was really important that the Atlanta Hawks just kind of do what they're supposed to do and keep their foot on the gas. I had a little bit of a concern. Some things that I kind of want to see them do a little bit differently is coming out of these games, whether they're games that they want. I mean, I think they went down by 12 early in the game, in this game and in the last game against Brooklyn, end up coming back. I'd like to see them start a little bit faster.
Well, they're gonna have to.
But I do feel good about the fact that they came away with a win against a team that they didn't allow to get their first win of the season against, and it's part of the Emirates Cup as far as playing in group play and all that. Last but certainly not least, Onyeka Okongwu from behind the arc. I'm starting to feel a lot better, more and more comfortable and confident, the same way I'm sure he is. He's been absolutely killing it from 3. I feel really good about when I see that shot go up.
Indeed. And the turning point once again was the third quarter. We'll talk about that when we come back. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio matched by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is also brought to you by DoorDash. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day. And you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you'll actually want. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the big drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. This episode of our Hawks Postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel. Again, that's FanDuel that's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, DeShaun, we know that the Hawks kind of started this game rough, and then they battled back, and they were able to take a 4-point lead into halftime, but it was what they did to start the second half. That was the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Here on the Hawks Postcast, our guy Robert Blackman and all of our supporters, they know that we will take the Hawks to task. Willie Carswell, you know the deal. We will take them to task. But like you said, the Hawks came to play tonight, and so we give them their flowers and give them their credit when they do, because with that 4-point lead at halftime, you're thinking, okay, Pacers kind of closing in. This is getting a little tight. But granted, the Hawks started off with a 10-2 run. Then that run ended up ballooning to 22-5 in a quarter where Jalen Johnson had already notched a double-double. And that 22-5 run really not just being there on an offensive side of the ball, as you mentioned, taking those high percentage, those effective quality shots, if you will, but also limiting what the Pacers were able to do in the quarter. And that was really the turning point of this game.
I think that there were just really so many similarities beyond just the end result in this game in comparison to, in addition to, the last game against Brooklyn. One of the more surprising things about this team is that they've been shooting it so well from the field. That has been actually kind of surprising to me. Even in some of the losses, from that standpoint, I think it's even been really consistent. But stringing together some second half, stifling defense where they've been kind of defensive anchors, hanging their hats a little bit, stepping it up, coming out of the break, I think is kind of where you've seen everything kind of come together for them. When you're talking about, what the ultimate turning point was, trying to go out and get the run going. I see here at a particular point in the game where Indiana was held scoreless coming out of the break for about 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
At that point, Atlanta had went on a 9-0 run. Of course, Zachary Risachet had stepped his game up quite a bit. We talked about everybody else kind of seemed like they're stepping their game up. We haven't been talking about him nearly as much. And I know things are going to look a little bit different sometimes on your second year. You're not going to surprise very many people. The opposition is going to kind of do their homework and make some adjustments, but it was good to see him come away with a dunk during that stretch. In addition to a big time 3-pointer that he had hit and converted on as well. But then you turn around and see that Indiana had went scoreless without a single field goal for like 5 minutes during that same stretch that you're talking about. Atlanta had went on a 13 consecutive point run during that time. 0 points in the first half for Zachary Risachet. By the way he finished off that, I think he played such a vital part in the run that they made during the same turning point that we're talking about. By the way, that third quarter, 34 points for the Atlanta Hawks, Indiana 17. That told the whole game.
It did. It really, really did. And yeah, Zachary Risachet, it was kind of a scary start for him because obviously he gets dinged for 3 early fouls. And so he bounced back nicely. He was probably the main turning point you could make the argument for in that quarter because he scored a team high 10 points in the third quarter. But Quinn Snyder used a 9-man rotation in that quarter, and 6 of those 9 players scored. And then when you kind of look down in one of the most important areas as well, and why they were able to limit the Pacers to only 17 points, you see that, again, 6 out of 9 players were able to get rebounds. The ball was moving, 9 assists in that quarter. They got a steal, a couple of blocks. So you really look, they made all of their free throws. Come on, I know that's going to make you smile. DeShaun.
You know it will every time. How did you know? We've been working together too long.
Yes. And like you said, give him so much credit for being able to shoot well from the field, and a solid night from 3, a solid period for them that third quarter, shooting nearly 38% from the field. So like you said, I think all of the pieces of the puzzle kind of came together in that all-important quarter. And if you look, again, as I mentioned, Quinn using a 9-man rotation, and as you're looking, you could really call out a number of players. Kristaps Porzingis having a nice third quarter with 7 points and 3 rebounds. Jalen Johnson, that's when he really started to clear the boards. He had only 4 points, but he had 8 rebounds in that third quarter. And obviously just really, and low key, because we got to give Jalen some credit for his handles as well, 4 assists in that quarter too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just think about it. For a person who's right there at that right around that triple-double mark, I think it was just about going into the fourth quarter almost, or midway through the fourth quarter or something like that, with a ton of time left to play. I think that was, something that was obviously great for this team. But same way you put a smile on my face, I got a stat that I'm sure put a smile on your face because I know how you get down. I know how much you love that this team knows how to, all of a sudden it seems like, show some ball protection and take care of the basketball. Only 10 turnovers on tonight. I know that is at double digits. Recently, we have been talking about keeping it in single digits, which is very tough to do. We're talking about playing against professionals. They were able to keep it and limit it at 10. Speaking of 10, putting 10 steals on the defensive end, plus taking care of the basketball, shooting high percentage shots. It just seems like a win-win. I just hope that that's something that can continue, because I don't even think that they are, to be honest with you, I'm not even confident that after even playing a game like this on tonight, that and forget about playing their best brand of basketball. I'm not even sure that they're playing their like a B or B plus level just yet. That just goes to show how really, really dangerous they can be once they're finally able to put it together.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, we're able to see, and not being negative, just saying that there's still room for improvement. That's kind of what you're saying there. And I'm thinking the same thing, because as we mentioned earlier in the show, tonight started group play for them. And obviously Pacers in that same group, and the way that cup play is, what is defining is, you're looking to win every game, obviously. But in addition to winning every game, it's about the number of points you score and the point differential. And I think that was so critical, because the Hawks were able to get to 128. They scored 30 or more points in every quarter. But in addition to that, remember, at some point, the Pacers started whittling away at that lead in the fourth quarter. And look, the funny thing is, I didn't back down or back like into a quarter like, oh dear, they're going to lose this game. They're going to give the Pacers their first win of the season. It was really more about cup play because the Hawks did their thing in the cup last year. And that was really where you started seeing them catch fire towards the middle and back half of the season. So I was more thinking like, nah, like you got to get there and make sure that point differential is deep double digits, because those are the types of things that if it comes down to a tiebreaker will be so important to the Hawks as they continue to go through group play and cup play. The Hawks Postcast is the #1 place to hang out after every game. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, head over to Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. We'll see you next time.